You were on the Third Eye Drops podcast, and you said that when you became a Jungian academic, you decided that it might be possibly useful or possibly, in some sense, forced upon you, in the sense that maybe that's what people think you should do, to go into kind of Jungian therapy. You said it created an interesting dynamic that you constantly reflect on. And you said maybe that's a story for another day. Well, Kevin, it is another day, and I would like you to just tell us a little bit about that time in analysis.
So it was an interesting dynamic for me personally, being a Jungian academic running probably the flagship Jungian course in the UK and probably in the world, and then going into Jungian analysis. And I think sometimes, for me at least, this is my personal reflection, what I was really mindful of is that I kind of know what a Jungian dream looks like, or I know what a Jungian interpretation looks like, but that in itself can be a defense.
Mm.
So then you might find yourself in a position of playing these very wonderful Jungian interpretive games. It's something I can go back and reflect on and still think that in teaching something that is so based on the relational and the clinical and not being an analyst is a very kind of difficult space to navigate. Andrew Samuels talks about the good enough all-rounder, and you find very few of those in the sense that they are both clinicians and academics at the same time. Andrew being a great example, Renos Papadopoulos, Mark Saban, these are the people that come to mind that are able to kind of straddle those positionalities and identities, if you will. So I always probably felt like I was going in as a deficit, not being an analyst myself, but going through or undertaking that analysis at least gives that experience of what it could be. Now, I think probably what I was referring to back in that podcast is that you do end up in this kind of intellectual play of how much do I say? Do I say enough that kind of maybe hides what the reality is? But reflecting on it more and more, what I found in the analysis is that I kind of kept to the surface quite a bit. What were the things that were on my mind at that time? It was about family, it was about work, it was about opportunities. And then some people might say, well, that's kind of really on the surface stuff. And Jungian analysis is really about delving deeper into the things underneath it. And I was reflecting on it with a colleague, and they said to me, they replied back, what's to say that isn't depth? What's to say that that isn't deep? And that really kind of gave me pause for a second, because we make these assumptions of what surface level is, or what the surface is and what the depth is. And maybe at that particular time, the depth was in those everyday concerns. And that really kind of changed my perspective a little bit.